I've done some play-by-play in the past as well. I remember studying charts. I remember having to make sure that on an instantaneous moment you can remember and get out the information, the number, the name of where the player goes. I know when you call games, the number instantaneously means what player that's supposed to be. And if it's on the outside and a guy is sweeping and one guy is number 28 and one guy is numbered 84, you don't have to look at the name of the back of the jersey to know, okay, I know the wide receiver's Johnson, so the wide receiver is the far right guy and the sweeping running back is Jones or whatever. If you use those as mnemonic devices, the numbers absolutely are how you process information.
Right. So, but you know the number because then you know the guy's position. So you might, for a second, when you see the roster for the first time, go, "Oh, they have a defensive end that plays number 6, that wears number 6." But then you remember that Johnson and number 6 is their defensive end, and you're not confused by it.
Those are fractions of seconds. You're going to tell me that when you see an 85 or a 92, and 85 doesn't automatically censor in your mind that's probably the wide receiver. I should remember now the 3 wide receivers.
Do you think that if Tom Brady gets to the line of scrimmage and sees a number 85 on the other side, he's going to go, "Is that my tight end? Should I throw it to him?" Of course he's not. He's going to know that that's whoever it is.
In the middle of a play, you don't think that he's processing all of that within fractions of seconds? And I ask this. Well, I'm on the side of Brady because I don't want to see the numbers change, but not for this reason. You're anti this because you want to see the numbers change. But let's just defer to Tom Brady.
No, actually, I don't care. I can't believe anybody has any opinion on this at all. I can't believe it's even a thing from a non-football perspective. Like, Brady was the first to actually offer a football conversation. I can't believe you guys had an actual reaction to like a cornerback being able to wear a different number.
We don't like the aesthetics of it, but I would ask this. Why do you think Tom Brady's complaining about this?
I understand. I mean, I read his words, but I don't understand how they exist in reality.
You don't believe him? You think he's lying?
No, I don't think he's lying. I don't get it. I don't see what he's afraid of, because it would make sense if he walked to the field and didn't know who he was playing and then had to play them. He's going to spend at least 6 days knowing everything about an opposing defense. I don't understand how he's going to be confused by a number that he might not even see running around the field.
You do understand. You just don't believe him. You do understand what he's saying. Obviously, his argument is, I use the numbers as tools to process in real time where I'm supposed to go with the football. That's obviously his argument. You know that's his argument. You just don't believe it's a problem.
The first thing I said was, I've never played quarterback, so I want to defer to Brady. But when I try to put myself in his position, I don't understand. So if somebody other than Tom Brady...
How can any of us understand what it's like to throw against a blitzing linebacker with 2 coverage over the top in the Super Bowl with a 4th quarter lead? I mean, of course we don't understand that. But if he says it, don't you think there has to be some validity to it?
There, of course there is. But then when I think about it, and again, if you have some physical specimen at defensive end standing 30 yards back from the line of scrimmage playing deep safety, I don't think that guy's number is going to confuse him. He's going to go, "Why is Clowney so far behind the line of scrimmage?" He's not going to go, "Who is that?" All of this, the things that he seemed to be objecting to, I don't understand how he's not going to learn by the time the game starts on Sunday. It might confuse him on Sunday night or Monday morning when he begins his prep, but when he gets to Sunday, I don't understand how he's not going to tell the difference between Clowney and a defensive back, no matter what their numbers are. No matter what their numbers are.
I disapprove of the jersey change because of aesthetics, and I realize that's not a football reason. Brady brings up a football reason, and if I had no dog in this fight, I'd have to believe the greatest player of all time has a valid reason for complaining about this. Now,
I'm just confused by it.
Have I found Brady annoying at times? Sure. Does he complain about stuff maybe that, he shouldn't? Does he get a little mouthy now late in his career? Perhaps. But I don't think he's creating this out of thin air. I think it's obvious what he's saying is that he processes information at such a high level in such a short amount of time that clearly the images of numbers assigned to certain players at certain positions is one of his advantages in processing. And this is going to strip away that advantage. Now, he might build up the advantage again. He might learn how to react. But he's not saying this just because he doesn't like the league office. He's not he called out his own Players Association. Well, you're saying I don't understand why. Like, he has his reason. He's calling out his own Players Association. There's got to be a reason for that. He's not just like a fire starter that just like loves making trouble.
Yeah,
he has a reason. So to totally dismiss the greatest quarterback of all time's reason for complaining about something because you just don't get it is like, well, we can't get anything that he lives or any of these guys live because they're at such an elite level.
I'm just confused. What he said about the NFL and the PA has nothing to do with my point. I from a football perspective, from him playing the position in which he has played it better than anybody else in the history of the game, and I have never played it, but the things I know about football, I don't understand what he's talking about. So I could be 1,000% wrong. Of course, I know that. But I don't know what he's talking about because to me, whatever he's worried about now, he's going to figure out in 35 seconds. Whether the guy has a number on his chest or a symbol like Prince, he's going to know that that guy is someone he should throw to or not throw to or block away from or block towards. That's what I don't get. Whatever you put on a jersey, on the front of these jerseys, he's going to create a system immediately to know what that means. So, like, that's why I don't understand his hesitation here because I want to give him credit and I assume he has the ability to very quickly remember who that person is and then have his brand new system to keep still being Tom Brady.
I think you're oversimplifying the act of playing quarterback in the NFL, just like all fans and media will do here. I think when you get to the line of scrimmage and there's 80,000 people screaming and it's 4th and 3 and you have to know late in the game within a fraction of a second after the ball is snapped where that safety's coming from and where the corner is undercutting and where your wide receiver is supposed to be and who's supposed to be dropping into coverage, the amount of information these guys process in a short amount of time is staggering. None of us could ever understand that. To dismiss that by just saying like, oh, he'll figure it out when he's telling you this will be a problem, I think is like, it's so presumptuous. And now, will Brady be still good at football? Of course. Will he probably adjust? Of course. Do I think if Brady vocalizes this issue that it is some type of issue? Of course. I think there's validity when the greatest of all time says this is going to be a problem. So I think it's really simplifying things when you're like, oh, come on. Like,
have you ever heard this before? Have you ever heard anyone ever talk about, have you heard a college coach or college quarterback ever talk about this? Ever bring this up? Ever say I was confused because that guy wore a number that he doesn't normally wear? And in college, you can basically wear almost whatever number you want.
I think that could sound like excuses for lesser quarterbacks if they start going like, I'm not recognizing the numbers as quickly, then it becomes Sam Darnold saying I see ghosts, and then you become clowned for weeks on end. If Brady says it, it gives it some validity.
Of course it does, because Brady, I just don't get it. And maybe he'll be right and we'll go, okay, I'm an idiot. But I just don't get what he's worried about because I don't think we're going to have this free-for-all where everyone's going to change their numbers. And B, I think once he looks at tape, he's going to know all he wants to know regardless of a guy's number on his jersey.
I find this hysterical that we just assume like, oh, these guys will figure it out. It's no big deal. And I don't get what's so confusing. They will recite a play, one play name, and we're like, how the hell can you memorize that play? It's like, this, that, this, 2, Y, banana, spider, blah, 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 left, right. We're like, that's one play. So we've already conceded that the play itself is confusing just to name it. But,
right.
But processing 250-pound guys flying at you within a fraction of a second shouldn't be that hard. Just figure it out. I mean, come on.
No, but
it's all really confusing.
Of course it is. Is he looking at a guy's chest and going, oh, that's 55, not 6? He's not going to sack me? Like, is that the thought process here? This is my confusion. Like, he's looking at a guy coming at him. He just gets out of the way. When he's looking down the field,
you think quarterbacking is just get out of the way? That's what you think quarterbacking in the NFL is? Just get out of the way?
No, but I'm not sure that he's making a different move based on the jersey number coming towards him.
His throw
I think he's
has
doing
to
his
be
best
based on like a window of like 6 inches, Bogues.
I know.
The precision of what has to go into throwing a touchdown to the NFL is so precise. It's like a surgeon going into your heart just to make sure you throw a touchdown correctly in double coverage.
And you think a cornerback wearing number 3 or number 27 makes a difference in that assessment?
If you know how to shade a guy 6 inches to make sure you throw it over the back shoulder, knowing within a fraction of a second that you've got to shade that guy because you know what position he plays in real time.
None of this pertains to jersey numbers. None of that pertains to jersey numbers.
If that's how you're processing on a field where guys are supposed to be, after the snap happens and there's chaos on the field, you don't think like subconsciously assessing jersey numbers is how quarterbacks can know where to throw a football?
No, I think he throws the football because he sees that Julian Edelman is open to the outside or has beaten his man over the top.
You think the greatest of all time just throws to the open man? He just goes, oh, Edelman's open, I'm just going to throw it to him.
No, he looks and he sees where Julian Edelman has run his routes.
You think that's how easy this is? Look, Edelman's running down the right side. He's open. I should throw it there. You think that's the simplicity of playing this position?
Well, I mean, hopefully it is if you're Tom Brady that, yeah, he's open, I'm going to throw it to him. But if he's throwing a fade pattern to D.A., if he's throwing a fade pattern, old school to Randy Moss, right? And he's looking at Randy Moss's body position against that defensive back. Where does the defensive back's jersey number come into play?
How many throws, Bogues, in a game do you think is a fade to Randy Moss? 3? There's 70 other throws in a game.
Okay. Again, you haven't told me where jersey numbers factor into whether somebody's open or not.
I keep telling you this.
You don't.
Yes, I keep saying you're moving chess pieces all across the board and having to recognize within a fraction of a second where 35 is, knowing the 30 is probably the safety here because that's the number that the safety has worn since the dawn of football that he's been in the NFL. Of course, in college, it's been different. And then you would know, suddenly the safety is wearing a running back's number, and I'm processing that completely different, and I've got to do it in a tenth of a second.
Why? But why? Why is he processing it differently? It's not a running back.
I need to step in because Connor's going to lose his job if we don't break soon here.
The greatest of all time knows how the game is played. It's a little bit more complicated than the way Bogusch was painting it. Look, Edelman's open. I should throw it to him. Randy Moss has an advantage in height. I'll throw him a jump ball. You are taking a snap, and you're understanding where the chess pieces are on a chessboard. And after the snap, chaos breaks out. If you ever watch football in real time, not super slow-mo, he should have thrown it there, and wonder why passes are incomplete all the time, or it's really hard to throw a touchdown, or guys with really natural abilities will fail, is because your anticipation has to be so acute. Your accuracy has to be so polished. Your understanding of where guys are supposed to be, and then execute it within an eyelash is so delicate that, there's like 5 guys that are good at this in the world. It's kind of finite. It is why you pay franchise quarterbacks what you pay them, and it is why it is really, really hard to find one guy that's good. Really. I find it interesting if you're a Browns fan, a Bills fan, a Dolphins fan, a Jets fan, and you're arguing Bogusch's point that how hard could it be to play quarterback? You've just watched 50 years of bad quarterbacking, everybody. You think it's kind of difficult? And what Brady is telling you is one of his tells is jersey numbers. It is what he is saying in this post. He's not just filling an Instagram quota. Like, today I should tweet about something. I should say something, so maybe I'll just talk about this. He's mentioning his Players Association, saying this is a bad idea. Do I think that Brady adjusts because he's Tom Brady? Of course. Do I think that he's going to look like Ryan Leaf? No. What I'm saying is when a savant at what he does or she does says something, you listen. You don't say, I know better. It's easier than he's making it out to be. It is so within a whisker of a fraction of a second that these guys have to assess information and process a lot of it. That what Brady is saying in lights here that you people are not listening to is it's hard to do this, and I use this as one of my tools. But you'd rather just act like football's like Madden. I just play X. I just press X and press 0 and the O button, and it's going to throw a pass. It's going to be caught. There's so much that goes into completing a pass in the NFL when all hell is breaking loose. Understanding where the safety's supposed to be, understanding what the coverage is supposed to be, understanding who's dropping back, who's blitzing, understanding all of these things on top of what your guys are supposed to do, and then executing it with the throw. But all of you people are just like, oh, it's the same color jersey. I mean, won't you just know that that's a red jersey, not a white jersey? Like, yeah, that's how quarterbacks in the NFL win Super Bowls.
But see, that's what you were saying, though.
This is what Patrick Mahomes does in the Super Bowl. Oh, man, he's wearing a red jersey. I should throw it to him. Oh, who knew? I mean, that's how easy it is to play quarterback. Tom Brady is telling you it's harder than that, and you're not listening because, oh, you guys all know better.
See, well, first of all, you're not listening because I said at the very beginning that I would obviously, of course, defer to Tom Brady because I've never played quarterback. I have also never said that it was easy to play quarterback. What I have said is, and to be honest, you're the one thinking that Tom Brady can be confused by a jersey number, which is what I don't understand here. Because when we get to a football game on a...
He's saying that he can be, and you don't believe him.
I am confused. I am confused by his point because I don't understand what he's worried about. I am here to listen. If Sean or our intern Aiden wants to book Tom Brady on this show or any other person that's played quarterback to come on here and walk me through this, I am all ears. And I'm completely open to admitting my mistake here when all this is put in front of me. What I don't understand is, and what you still have not addressed, as you're calling me and everyone else an idiot, is that when Tom Brady gets to the line of scrimmage and he is surveying the field pre-snap and he looks left and right at the line down the field, he's looking at a number and he sees, okay, that's number 88, whatever. I know who that guy is. He doesn't need the number construction rules to figure out that that's the safety. He knows that number 6 on the other team is a safety, and he knows exactly who he is. He knows exactly who his traits are. So when he is making a decision to throw a pass, a complicated one, he knows what he's doing. He's not playing strangers.
But what happens if he has spent 20 years of his career, 20 years, learning subconsciously how to process this information, or consciously, based on what a jersey number is supposed to be at a place on the field that it's supposed to be, and now has to rewire his brain? It could take time to adjust, and maybe that's what he's worried about the first 6 to 8 games, or however long that takes a human being to rewire. I mean, imagine if all of the pneumatic devices that you use to do what you do on the fly have to change, and you have to rewire your brain. Don't you think there could be some adjustment time to that?
If his multi-step thought is that's number 55, he must be a linebacker, he must be slower than number 22, and he's been as good as he is, then I'm mesmerized that he's Tom Brady. Because it shouldn't be that level of thought. Number 55 is Jeff Davis, and he can do this.
What do you think?
Because this has gone round and round. I find it, and no offense, Bogish, but plenty of offense, completely embarrassing by Bogish and some of our listeners to not understand what Tom Brady's coming from. And it's important to note here, Tom Brady in his Instagram post didn't say, now it's impossible to play the quarterback position. He simply noted it is going to lead to sloppy football, which speaks to DA's point. And for our listeners to throw things out like, well, it's different color jerseys, you can't figure it out. And for anybody to suggest, well, college quarterbacks figured out, first of all, the last time Tom Brady played college football and dealt with this, I was in 8th grade. 8th grade. All right, it's been a long time of Tom Brady studying how to play football this way. And for anybody to not understand, oh, Wes Welker, Randy Moss, you know what they look like, who cares what the corner's number is? Guys, defenses every year in the NFL are getting more and more complex. And yeah, is it easy to identify if the star safety of the other team wears number 6? But there's about 20 different defenders in a game that Tom Brady has to identify, and so many different complex blitzes and coverages to understand where these guys are coming from. He'll figure it out, but have you ever tried to give your parent or your grandparent the new iPhone or the new Android, and you sit there and you go, boy, this is really complicated, really confusing for them. Hold on.
So now he's my 65-year-old dad?
Yes, in football terms, he is. He's the guy who has done things a certain way that now you're trying to explain. And let's not forget, guys, people don't like change, especially when you were so accustomed and so used to doing something. We can't understand Tom Brady not grasping this change because we're not in that brain and in that world of this is his job to detecting numbers and all the blitzes. I mean, heck, we just spent a year where people didn't trust scientists and couldn't understand why they had to wear a mask, and we can't understand why people don't understand why Tom Brady can't do this. It's something we're not inside his brain, but until he's done for 20 years and has kept up with doing it, his defense has got more complex, and he's not telling you he'll never be able to do it. He's telling you quarterbacks are going to have a hard time adjusting, and it's going to lead to sloppy football. I don't think that's crazy, and I think that's perfectly understandable if you watch football and get your hands out of the nachos for 10 minutes, which is tough for me to do.